Happy day to you. We are on page 160 of our grammar workbook, and we're going to do a little reviewing here. So you're going to need to have this page open, please. We're going to talk a little bit about each of these items on this sheet, and then you're going to write some of them. Let's talk a little bit about verbs. A verb shows action, and so it tells what the subject is doing or seeing or hearing or some sort of action that they're doing. So I want you to think of some action verbs. I want you to think of 4 action verbs. And I want you to pause the video for a minute and I want you to write down 4 different action verbs, things that you would be doing. Right there, just 4 single words. Put a comma in between each one. Do that now. Okay. Now we're going to move on to helping verbs. Remember, a helping verb is called an auxiliary, and a helping verb helps the verb to show more completely the action that's happening. You have a whole long list of them that I hope you are also going back and listening to. It's part of your assignment every day, is to go back and listen to those 20-some helping verbs. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been, have, has, done, you know them all. I want you to write down 5 helping verbs right here. If you need to draw a line, that's fine. I want you to write 5 helping verbs, put a comma between each one, and show me that you know what some helping verbs are. Go. Okay. Now I want you to write here compound verbs. Compound just means you have at least 2 items that are working together to be a verb item in your sentence. So if you have a compound verb, you're going to have 2 things. This is what we talked about the last 2 days in grammar. Like our very first sentence, the storm flashed and dashed. Those are 2 things that the storm did. And so you would want to make sure you have a conjunction in between. So compound verbs are 2 verbs in a sentence working together with a conjunction in between. I want you to come up with 2 sets of compound verbs. Run and jump, comma, something else. Come up with 2 sets and put a comma in between each set. A compound verb, 2 verbs with a conjunction, comma, and another one. Ready? Come up with something, go. Okay. Conjunctions. We have talked about the 2 conjunctions. Conjunctions are things that glue, they're words that glue other words together. We have used conjunctions in our compound subjects. We are now using them in our compound verbs. They are connector pieces that glue 2 items together in the sentence. Your 2 conjunctions I want you to write down here. I want you to write down the first one, which is and put a comma. And I want you to write the other one we've been practicing with, which is or. Please write those 2 down so I know you're practicing conjunctions right now are and or. There are a few more, but we're going to make sure we just really get those glued in our head. Looking at this word, say it with me, synonym. Say it again, synonym. Synonyms are similar. Antonyms are opposite. So similar in meaning, you're singing through your chant, your song this week. A synonym is something that means something similar to something else. Meaning I could say walked. A synonym to that could be strolled. Okay, I want you to come up with 2 sets of synonyms right here. If I were to have done walked and strolled, and then I would do 2 more. I want you to come up with 2 sets of synonyms. Ready, go. Okay. Antonyms. Antonyms are things that mean the opposite. Again, synonyms and antonyms do not have to be verbs. You could have synonyms and antonyms that are nouns. They just have to be similar in meaning for a synonym. Antonyms are opposite. Antonyms are opposite. So I could say white and black would be opposites. Over, under would be antonyms. So I want you to come up with 2 sets of antonyms and write them on the line or the space beside antonyms. Go. All right. Our last one is homonyms. Homonyms sound the same, and they're sometimes spelled the same, but they don't mean the same thing. We're going to write a few down here. One homonym would be sun, S-U-N, like the sun that shines on you. What would be another sun that you would spell differently? Yes, the mother had a boy and he was the son in the family. Now, homonyms can also, those are not spelled the same, but they sound the same. Homonyms can also, put a dashed line there, a slash line, diagonal line. Homonyms could also be spelled exactly the same. You know a couple of these. Some of our months are some of these. You have may, like to have permission, may I go play, or you have the month of May. They're spelled the same, but they have a very different meaning. Those are homonyms. All right? Give you an idea of how to play with words here. Things that sound the same and confuse you unless you know what they mean. Now you're going to get a chance to use these conjunctions. In this section right here, I'm going to have you, using the following sentences, you're going to construct new sentences by adding a conjunction, either and or. I want you to underline that right there, students, because today you can use and or, and put another verb to form the compound verb. In the example earlier, mom drove blank the kids before the game. You're adding a conjunction and another verb. Earlier, mom drove and listened to the kids before the game. They added a preposition here. You can choose to do that if it makes sense in your sentence, but don't do it if it doesn't make sense. Always read your sentence before you're finished. Does the team often practice? Add a conjunction and another verb. In the sleet. Both girls shivered in the cold during the soccer game. The white snow fell. Add a conjunction, another verb. The field. We're trying to pack more power in your verbs in this lesson to see by using them as compound verbs. Then you will turn to page 161 and you will do number 4 and 5. Heidi dribbled and or did something else, the ball down the field. Suddenly the parents shouted and or something else for another goal. Please pause and fill those in and then come back with me. Okay. We are going to practice analyzing these compound verbs together on the first one, then you're going to do the second one and check it with me. Remember, we read it. We're looking for our conjunctions first, and then we're going to look for our phrases, clauses, and then our principal elements, and then our modifiers. That's the road that we're walking here. Begin. Should we ride bikes or walk together to the picnic? Are there any conjunctions in this sentence? Yes. Or is a conjunction, so we mark it with our wings. That shows us we have a connector piece somewhere in our sentence there. So now we're looking for, are there phrases, clauses, and principal elements and modifiers? Are there any prepositional phrases in this sentence? Should we ride bikes or walk together to the picnic? Yes. To the picnic is a prepositional phrase. To is the preposition. To what? Picnic. Object of the preposition. The adjective. Any other prepositional phrases? Should we ride bikes or walk together? Nope. So we're on to principal elements. Should we ride bikes or walk together to the picnic? This is a sentence and it is interrogative. This sentence is about we. So we is the subject. This sentence tells us that we should ride or walk. Ooh, so should ride or walk is our predicate. Ride and walk are the predicate verbs. Should is the helping verb. Or is our conjunction. Notice whenever you say, and it is interrogative, you're going to be checking for a split helping verb and predicate verb so that it goes into the interrogative structure. And we found that there. We have a conjunction, so we're connecting the walking and the riding. Moving on, we're going to ask of each verb the what question to see if we have any direct objects. We should ride what? Bikes. So bikes is the direct object because it receives the action of this verb. together. Walk what? Together. Nope, that doesn't work. Walk how? Together. How is an adverb question. So together is an adverb because it modifies the verb. We are not finished because we have to tag this entire phrase on. It is not connected to anything right now, students, so you're not finished. You must connect your phrases to a principal element, and it's not connected, so we can't stop. Ride or walk where? To the picnic is an adverbial element because it modifies the verb, and it is a prepositional phrase. We always connect it to the closest verb or the verb that makes the most sense. It would work for both verbs, ride and walk, but we're going to do it to the closest one. Okay, now we have completed that one. If you have any questions about that, I walked through all the reasons for it, so go back and rewind the video if you need it. Now you are going to do number 2. Afterward, the cousins played games and romped outside. Complete your analysis and come back to check. Okay, let's check it. Afterward, the cousins played games and romped outside. Are there any conjunctions in this sentence? Yes, and conjunction. Are there any prepositional phrases in this sentence? Afterward, the cousins played games and romped outside. No. All right, principal elements. Afterward, the cousins played games and romped outside. This is a sentence and it is declarative. This sentence is about cousins, so cousins is the subject. This sentence tells us that cousins played and romped. So played and romped are the predicates. They are the predicate verbs because they show action. There are no linking verbs because predicate verbs do not use linking verbs. Played, we're always going to ask our what question. Played what? Games, direct object because it receives the action of the verb. Romped what? That doesn't make sense, so that's not a direct object. But we can say the adjective played when, afterward, adverb. We make it go to the closest one if it makes sense. Romped where? Outside, adverb. Do we have any phrases that we need to connect? We do not, so you are all set. Fill out the rest of it that you haven't, if you took any time off to do that, make sure it's all good to go. Look forward to seeing your work. Carry on.